Hello everybody, we're in Chapter 1. This is Chapter 1, Lesson 3. Chapter 1, Lesson 3. So make sure you just look at the podcast. It says Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. You know that as long as you follow the numbers, the podcast will be in order for you. There's also a PowerPoint there for you to reference as we go along. We're finishing up Chapter 1, and this is Lesson 3, or the final lesson, if I can make it in time and not ramble. So we're talking about now one of the ninth factor or 10th factor, I forget where we're actually at, is an environmental factor. And now that's the big buzzword right now with the green this and the green that. But the environmental concerns, or kind of an environmental mindset, happened a long time ago. Preferably late 50s, early 60s is where we're seeing this movement. We're seeing it attached to the health and fitness movement, but this factor is important because there are many people who participate in recreation for what I would call the aesthetics. And the aesthetics of recreation usually involve nature. It's usually a big component there. But I like to get out and walk and be in the fresh air. I like to walk through the fallen leaves in the fall. I like to visit particular national parks. I like to go backpacking or camping or hiking. Whether it's in the desert, or it's in Alaska. I like to be outside. I like to camp under the stars. I have an environmental reason for participating in recreation. And then this is a huge group of folks. Maybe you're involved in the Sierra Club, or maybe you love hunting, and you go hunting, you go bow hunting, or you go shotgun, and you go rifle hunting. It's all part of the aesthetics. It's just as aesthetic to go out and go hunting as it is to go on a hike. Is that there's various environmental reasons. When you hear the word environmental, it usually says that people are in it because they're into recycling and they're into reducing their carbon footprint and things like that. And there are a lot of people like that. But it's probably best titled the aesthetics, or an aesthetic desire just to be outside. And there are a variety of recreational activities that you participate in, but that desire to be outside and smell the fresh air and feel the warm sun's rays, maybe not too much here in Phoenix, especially right now, but it is something that people desire. This is another major factor of why people are participating in recreation, is that aesthetics, that environment, that nature, kind of that interests people. Now we've got a strange one, and pay attention to this, is that you've got the old version called it the decline of the nuclear family, or the breakdown of the family, and this slide here says changing family. It all means the same thing. Here's what you have, is you have some things that are being removed or slowly changing in the society, and these do affect recreation in a positive way and in a negative way. You're losing the big family. We've already lost the extended family, where you had the nuclear family living with the grandparents, making it an extended family, and you're losing that intergenerational connection, which is very scary. You have more isolation now within a family than you've ever had before. It's actually called, termed by the American Psychological Association as screeners. Screeners are adolescents, and adolescence actually goes to 28 or 29 now. American Psychological Association says adolescence actually goes to your late 20s, which to me seems scary. People should grow up a little bit faster. But that's just my personal opinion. So adolescence, you got this long time period of adolescence now. And the term screeners comes from the folks that can't get away from their screens, their laptops, their Blackberries or iPhones, and they're constantly texting and Facebooking and doing all of this. And I personally think it's great. It's another form of recreation. But they're finding that too much of that, just like too much time in front of the video game machine, takes away from socialization, from connecting to others, to having positive relationships, to working other parts of your social being. if you're just constantly in front of a screen playing the World of Warcraft, then there's a concern by many psychologists that's saying that you're not interacting at the levels that are normal and or necessary. So there's some controversial issues with recreation, and we'll get to that much later in the class and talk about those things because it's very interesting. But what this factor is saying is that with all of these changes, there is an increase in recreation because with the less time of the family spending together and doing different things, you have individuals in that family seeking recreation, and they're seeking it usually through what we call borderline recreation or stuff that can even be negative. And everything from video games to movies to doing all these things by themselves, and they're increasing recreation, but they're also gambling. They're also doing drugs. They're also doing things that what we call antisocial uses of free time. So part of the recreation industry is increasing because of the changes in the family. But whether or not 50% or more of that is negative, I guess we'll only see in the years to come. So while there's some financial benefits to it, there's certainly some moral and social implications on the negative side for the changing family. So this decline in this family is definitely not something that is good, but it is helping the revenue stream in recreation, because more sales of technology and video games and various things like that does increase that $74 billion number. Okay, moving on. So we've got it says the maturation of profession. Okay, well, what's happened over the years, and we'll find in the history segment of this class, is that recreation's gotten a bit safer, which is good. Now, technically, I can't say that. I couldn't put that on my website or on my brochure, owning a small recreation business that I do, because of course it's a sue happy world, and I wouldn't want to get someone who feels they're entitled to somebody else's money for very little reason. I couldn't do that, so I'm going to be careful of saying the word safe. But if you look at the recreation and its roots, the recreation industry and its roots, where we look at back in the 1800s in the traveling amusement park, okay, or the traveling amusement circuit, these are basically kind of a Renaissance festival type group that popularized this the fair, the local fair. And it was pretty scary. They used to kidnap people out of these fairs and stuff, and it was bad. It wasn't regulated, and not that regulations necessarily good. You just had some downright weirdos running this thing. If you go from that to where we are now with amusement parks, it's much, much different scene. And people can feel safe, and they can feel that they're going to be dealt with by a professional. That people that work at the amusement parks and in the recreation business are professionals. They're depending on what bowling alley you go to, but the majority of people are professionals, and they're going to treat the business very professionally, and that it's okay that recreation's got a more professional feel to it. And that's one of the parts of the maturing of the profession. And then there's some other components there on your slide. The last thing is professional leadership. Is that there with the expansion of the leisure services field or the recreation industry, you have detailed, conscious, very professional, very, very ethical leaders in the rec business, in the rec industry. And so you're going to see a lot of excellent corporations, excellent nonprofits, and some good government-run agencies that really deliver quality recreational products and services. And that's good, because as more money pumps into the industry, the more professional it gets, the more careers are available, the more people participate, the bigger the industry continues to grow. And we'll talk about that growth and some of its implications later on in the class. But there's your intro. There's your first chapter. That's lesson 1. So this concludes lesson 1. Remember those major factors I talked about, as you'll need to define 2 or 3 of those on the test. All right, I'll be back for chapter 2